Hello and welcome on in everyone to today's video. I'm Space Wizard Total War, and today we'll actually be showing off the Kislev changes that update 6.1 is bringing. Kislev has the absolute most reworks out of all of them, so we will be having an entire dedicated video just to Kislev, and then Tzeentch and Cathay shall have, like Tzeentch, Cathay, and the Ogres shall have their own kind of dedicated video not too long after this one. So for Kislev, we have, firstly, the supporter race is gone, replaced with the Court and Orthodoxy. So this is actually going to be across all of the factions. The Court and Orthodoxy is going to be a kind of balance system, similar to what you have over in Cathay, where you're balancing out, instead of yin and yang, you're balancing the Ice Court with the Great Orthodoxy. Each of the lords is going to have a balance that you're allowed to have, so if you can see here, we'll be building up support for the Ice Court, and as this bar fills, you'll gain a boon for reaching the next tier, and you'll hit, basically, you'll see the tier level go up. When the tier level goes up itself, nothing actually changes, but you do gain the boon at the end of the list. So 100 support for either the Orthodoxy or the Ice Court levels up and gains you those boons. What you can spend those boons on then, is they'll come down here into the bank. Boons can be spent on these different tabs. So you have War, Hierarchy, Dominion, Legacy, and Attendance, each of them having a different kind of subsect of things that they are going to upgrade. And they are going to differ between the Ice Court and the Orthodoxy. So going over just the War section here, we have Martial Doctrine first, which is going to give you a Battleborn, 3 additional melee defense for all units ranked 7 and above, and 10% weapon strength for all units ranked 7 and above as well. That's going to cost you 2 of your Ice Court boons, and as soon as you do, that is permanently part of your factions. You have this buff active the entire time. That would then unlock the next tier, Axe, Bow, and Gun, for 3 of those Ice Court boons, and that will give us the passive ability Into the Fray for all of our hybrid Kislevite infantry and cavalry. So we'll gain a passive with a one-time use and a vigor recharge. So it fully recharges the unit's fatigue the first time they enter melee. Allows you to sprint all over the place, pick up the very first, or the best position on the battlefield you can, and then you go into the fight completely fresh and ready. Or alternatively, if you're sitting there firing arrows for a time, that will tire the unit out, so as soon as they then charge into melee, they will then be completely refreshed on their vigor, and you will take no penalties, at least for that first little bit of fighting, which is very, very nice. These boons are going to be incredibly powerful, with a decent one in the first tier every single time here. So for another example here, the Royal Guard gives us an upkeep reduction for the Zarguard and Ice Guard units of 15%, which is really, really nice, on top of the upkeep reduction you already get with Katerin. And then you have the Death Frost Blades as the secondary tier, which will amplify their armor-piercing damage, basically trading it off for a little bit of base. So switching them more towards an armor-piercing arrow type, which is very, very, both arrow and melee damage type, which is very nice for your Ice Guard, which do struggle against armored targets in the later game. And this is just on the War section. There are others, such as the Hierarchy, which is going to be more about your heroes, and basically buffing up their abilities, heroes and lords both. So for the Orthodoxy side over here, we have, for example, War Priests, which I think is the strongest out of this little bunch here, which War Priest into Wartime Prayer gives you the Fury of a Patriarch, so it'll give flammable attacks for Gestalten and Patriarchs, reducing fire resistance, and then also give flaming attacks to Patriarchs. Gestalten already has this, so he doesn't need that as an ability, but this is going to allow your Patriarchs to prime enemies and obliterate them with things like Little Grom or any of the kind of fire effects you might be able to pick up along your campaign. We also have the Wartime Prayer as the secondary one there for 3 of your Orthodoxy boons. This will give all lords access to the Zealous Conscription, enabling instant access to recruitable Kossars. Picking up an instant recruitment option is going to help you really be able to hold the line against the Forces of Chaos, Demons, and Norska, who all kind of have similar abilities to bring troops in out of nowhere. So this is a very, very good boon here. I would say almost rush this if you're playing on a Boris Ursus campaign. So each of these is going to have its own kind of category of buffs, so Dominion being more about your upkeep, your experience gain for units, research rate, devotion, population, and all sorts of other things like that. Every owned settlement gains 1% additional income and growth to all adjacent settlements. How insane. Legacy going to give us more relations to the Empire and such like that, buffing up units you get through allied recruitment as well. Frozen Eye going for more line of sight and revealing units in your territory, as well as giving you 6,000 more defensive supplies. So these are all incredible. You're going to want to look through these on your own and figure out which exactly you wish for your campaigns, because the different boons you're grabbing are absolutely going to shape your campaign. Now, how do you actually gain the support? Those are going to come from your abilities from Katerin and the other lords. So even Katerin is going to have, of course, the Ice Queen here, giving you 2 additional Ice Court support per turn, which was basically just converted over from the supporter race. And all of your other lords and heroes will have the same. So if they have a Kislevite focused trait, it has an opportunity to being giving you Ice Court support or support for the Orthodoxy. All of the base traits do not all of the Kislevite traits will, but a good majority of them will. So give it a look when you're coming on through to recruit. So we'll take a look here, such as in Kislev. We have Nicole, the Strongholder, such as this one, is not going to give you any kind of support. But we have a Druzhina that is a Judicator, which will give us some Orthodoxy support to balance that out. As you can see here, we have a lot more Ice Court support going on in, but not much Orthodoxy. Why this matters is if you gain too much advantage in one or the other, you will start to receive penalties in your campaign, similar to if you get out of balance with Harmony. The other way you'll pick up support is actually through different building types. So if you come on into your building browser, you will see a new split building option for our infrastructure, where we can either go for the Orthodoxy or the Ice Court. And those will have different buffs and bonuses depending on which you do choose, and you're able to select between 3 of them at the 3rd tier, which all are going to have, again, 3 different options for you to specialize your Orthodoxy or Ice Court building. You can build one of either in each settlement, either minor or major, but only, of course, your major settlements can go all the way up to the final tier Orthodoxy Cathedral or the Court of the Motherland. This does lead us nicely along to the other changes that have been made to the Kislevite buildings, first of which being nice and simple, that all of your economy line buildings have been cut in half in terms of how much they do cost to actually build. Before, they were quite expensive. You do get a lot of returns for them later on, but the diminishing returns were a little bit rough in the early game, so that has been evened out quite a bit. The other change is that we have in all of your major Kislevite cities the Adamant's Estate, which is a new building that is going to cost you 5k, give you access to the recruitment of Zargard with sword and shield, as well as winged lancers. Just does not an additional requirement to unlock them. You basically can just get these 2 specific units through the Adamant's Estate, should you wish. What this also does is gives your Adamant a chance to gain a unique trait, extra defensive supplies, and then a construction cost reduction for all buildings in that province. The only thing that it is going to be detrimental to you is that if an Adamant is deployed, you'll have extra experience gain for the Adamants, which is not a detriment. 800 additional experience is quite a bit, but you lose all of the provincial income. You're basically giving it all to the Adamant in return for extra supplies, a bit of construction cost reduction, and then him leveling up faster. You do get an additional Zargard unit, but you have to keep that in mind as soon as you deploy an Adamant to the area, so if you give this to Kislev or one of your highest earning cities, all of that money will then be gone, so must keep it in mind. A very powerful building, but one that it comes with quite a trade-off. Up next is the technology rework. Kislev has had its technology tree broken down into 3 categories and had the original requirement for owning Erengrad, Kislev, or Prague removed entirely. So we have it broken up into the land, which is going to be technologies focused around improving your economy and construction capabilities. The people, which is going to be around improving your military strength, of course. And then lastly, this state, which is going to be focused around improving your faction governance and power bases. I'll let you jump into your own Kislev campaigns to give all of these new technologies a look to see if you can find anything that you really like. But one of my favorites is the Royal Ice Guardians here. That's going to drop upkeep for armies led by the Frost Maidens and Zarita Katerin by 10%, and then also give all of your Ice Guard units Guardian, which is pretty incredible. And this brings us nicely along to our Ice Court, where you still have that upfront cost to initially train either the Frost Maidens or the Ice Witches, and then you'll have the very first choice being between Tempest and Ice, and outside of that, we will be able to show the next choices. So let's give... Alright, so a turn later we have ourselves our first choice, and as you can see, the randomness is mostly gone, we're then replaced with 4 options. So you can, each time, instead of having just 2 choices that are mostly randomized, you'll have 4 choices to choose from for a lot better selection to fully build out your Frost Maids and Ice Witches the way you want. So you've got Economist here, Architect, Protector, and Court Agent. We can choose one of the 4, and I'll show you the next choice as well. So we'll just go ahead and grab let's say an economist for the late game. Alright, another turn, another set of choices. So this time you'll see those trying to be the Ice Court are sent across the realm to serve Kateryna's interests on the battlefield. So we have the Shield for more armor, and leadership for our troop. Vanguard for speed, Perfect Vigor stock, and Vanguard deployment for herself. Ice Shard Wielder for the ability to use Ice Shard and a couple of other bonuses that weren't there previously, so these have been buffed up just a little bit. So less enemy winds of magic, which is fantastic for fighting against chaos, and then a cooldown reduction to her spells. And then lastly, Storm, which will give her that glacial blast to have escape being surrounded. A bit of a winds of magic reduction for all of her spells, not as much as the Ice Shard Wielder. She gets magical attacks, increases her own winds of magic, and then it drops enemy spell resist. So you have yourself quite a few good choices here. We're just going to go ahead and grab a Lady of the Storm, and then move on to the next changes for Kislev. Next on our list of reworks is the Ataman, where previously they were just generic lords that were the same as your Boyar that you can deploy to both give kind of random dilemmas that will give them traits. Now they have their own skill line, so let's go ahead and grab one of these here. We have one that's a Protector, Efficient, we got 3 Efficients and 1 Protector. Okay, so he's going to give us more Devotion, and he is going to give us more income. In fact, all of these are going to give me more income. So we'll just go ahead and grab Antal and have him drop in at the River Urskoy, or at the Southern Oblast over here. We're making more cash at Southern Oblast for now, so let's go ahead and deploy him over here. Don't get this Alexander, we get the other one. Deploy him here, we'll be getting 10% more cash after he arrives in a single turn. And then we can go ahead, and if you want to give them any skills or check their details, you go to whichever settlement they are stationed at. He's not stationed anywhere yet, so we can't see his skill tree. As soon as he does arrive, we'll go ahead and show that off, so let's jump to it. Alright, our Ataman is deployed, and we can go ahead and just select him here, and you can see he's got this awesome Ursinite shield and an axe. He is actually a hybrid infantry. He's got looks like a 4-barreled pistol on his back. So yes, he's either an axe and shield, or he is going to be a pistol and shield. So he's basically an armored Kossar lord. He looks incredible. So for his armor, he's actually got a lot of armor, got a pretty decent shield, and these are the stats you're going to be looking at here. Very defensively statted with some pretty good, solid armor-piercing muscle strength. So he's going to be a very, very dangerous combatant there. Defensive and dangerous both. For his campaign effects, Atamans are going to gain further experience when they're deployed to low devotion provinces, from garrison sally attacks, as well as local defense and resource buildings. So any of your defense and resource buildings will also buff up the Ataman's experience as he's kind of administering the area. He himself naturally has 150 experience per turn, and then a wound recovery time at -4 at the moment, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and give a look at his skills, and then we'll take a look. We'll discuss the sally attack as previously mentioned there. So your Ataman is going to have his own completely unique skill line here. Mainly his blue line is completely unique to him, and then he's got his own, a whole heap of just kind of generic unique skills here. So going through, we've got Ataman, which gives us the ability to have a garrison sally attack with a certain amount of range. So like I said, I said we would discuss this earlier, but what this allows is, you can see this purple here, any of the garrisons in this region have the ability to ride on out and strike down enemies that are in the area. So as long as they're inside of this purple, you can have that garrison attack them. Now, not all garrisons are going to be very effective at this, but it's good if you have a rebellion that pops up and you need to wipe them out before they get too large. And you can just send out one of your smaller settlements to go and deal with them in a hurry. Or your major settlement can actually become a pretty nasty attacker itself, when led by the Ataman and its properly built up garrisons, which is a whole heap of fun. So back into Antal's skills. We have, of course, your missile resist, your brass lung, all of your normal stuff. We've got Oblast Outriders, which will allow you to summon in a unit of horse archers. So it looks like you fire some arrows on in, it disrupts an area, and then horse archers fly in from the outskirts. It does no damage though, so you don't use it to try to hurt anyone. We have the choice of being court sanctioned or an orthodoxy adherent. So you can dedicate them to either the Ice Court, giving you 5 support, or the orthodoxy 5 support. If you choose the Ice Court, you'll get the biting wind ability for his army. which is a magical 30% armor-piercing wind spell. Very nice. As well as Favor of the Zarina, giving you access to more Frost Maidens. On the Orthodoxy side, we'll get Battle Chance, we'll get Strength of the Penitent. So he himself will gain more resistance and melee defense as long as he's losing combat, and that recharges. Looks like every 3 seconds you'll have a cooldown. Pretty nice, but pretty nice almost turns him into a... I guess he turns him into a Patriarch, doesn't it? Also, we'll have the Favored Son giving us access to more Patriarchs. You'll also be able to specialize between a Groundbreaker at rank 12, giving you the ability to nullify all climate penalties when you are the admin for that province, as well as dropping construction time for all buildings in that province as well, which is very, very strong, especially up there with Boris Ursus in the Chaos Wastes. Next, we have the Warden, which will allow our settlements to perform a garrison attack with even more range, and then give his attack, or his army, more attack and defense by 5, which is always good. Ambassador is the final choice, which is going to increase our diplomatic relations with all factions, and then increase the trade goods produced by 100% when you're in this province. Very good for the likes of Kislev or Erengrad over here, that have a lot of trade goods to produce.
You have the strength to rule.
I guess all three, Prague, Kislev, and Erengrad. For his specialized blue line, we have Watchman, giving him 50% more line of sight, and then dropping hero action success chance in the province as long as he's the admin. That's going to be the caveat for all of these, of course. We've got Iron Disciplinarian fixing up our devotion, Leader of Renown, which is not unique, Foreman, which is going to be dropping construction cost and construction time of all buildings, so you can stack Foreman up with Groundbreaker to really drop some construction time. Garrison Leader is going to give our garrison an additional 300 experience gain. Introspector gives us some research rate. Distributor is for growth. Patrolman will give us even more range with the garrison Sally attack. Very good, again, if you combine them up with the Warden there. Local Guide for more campaign movement range for armies starting in the Adamant's province. Musterer for replenishment rate, and then lastly, Drill Instructor, which will give us more global recruitment capacity, local recruitment capacity, and then local recruitment duration, so you can speed your troops along much faster. Alright, we've progressed in this campaign enough now to actually show you off the changes to the devotion mechanic. Where before you had kind of devotion up top that you had to balance for your entire faction, and now devotion is going to replace your control. However, unlike with control, your recruitment and growth are not going to be affected by high or low devotion. Instead, it's going to be the line of sight for your settlements, and it's going to allow you to nullify climate penalties as your devotion increases. So you'll see here at base level, nothing changes. As you start to increase, you'll gain more line of sight, lose some devotion per turn, of course, to kind of balance out. And then you gain even more line of sight, allows you to perform the invocations of the motherland, which we'll see down here and we'll get to just in a moment. That's where your invocations are now as well. Instead of being just a faction-wide activation, kind of like a ritual, second tier will allow you to perform the invocations of motherland in your local province, as well as if you have any armies in the area, it gives them access to the invocations via this panel as well. Like once again, I'll show off the exact invocations and what they do in just a moment, so let's get back to the devotion. And at your highest tier, you will have a 80% more line of sight and be able to nullify any kind of climate penalties that would normally be here. So if you're Kislev and you have, say, settled the Griffinwood down here, normally it would be quite awful for you to actually inhabit this. However, with the devotion at max, all of those penalties will be nullified completely, so you won't have to worry about it. However, it will mean that you can't use any of the devotion invocations there, lest you lose that climate adaptation that you have gained. It's pretty awesome little system that allows you to colonize the entire map and not worry about it too much, so you are the anti-chaos, as you should be. If you lose devotion, you will lose line of sight down to a bonus of 0%, but you will gain a progressive increase to the experience for admins deployed in that province. So it allows you to kind of quickly level them up and get the province under control if you need to. It's a good idea to keep your admins moving around to areas with weak devotion to give them as much experience as possible when you can. So for those invocations themselves, the ones on the province are going to be different. So for the Daj here, if you select a settlement such as Fort Yakova, we would be able to instantly complete one turn of each ongoing settlement construction. So I wouldn't be able to finish this, would just drop it to 2 turns. So this is one where you'd want to wait till you have a couple of them all up and running and ready to go, and you can reduce several construction times all at once, which is such a powerful ability. Next up we have Tor, God of Thunder and Lightning. This will give us the Thorson's Thunderstorm Cataclysm spell for everyone in the region for 5 turns, which is, that's incredible. 800 barrier hit points for all units defending settlements, 50% less vigor loss during siege battles, and 25% more weapon strength during siege battles as well. So this basically just allows you to backhand Archaon or whoever has decided to form an incursion on your land with the power of a Thunder God. Up next we have Salyak, which for 5 turns will instantly, well I guess it'll last for 5 turns, but it'll instantly replenish all of your units in the selected settlement's garrison, give you 50 growth for that local province, 3 additional local recruitment capacity. So good for growth and trying to build up some units in a hurry, as well as healing after maybe a good conquest like we have done up here in Helpit. Would have been useful to have afterwards. Or after a great big battle, you have an onslaught of baddies incoming. Lastly, we have Ursun. The fate of Kislev is linked in many minds to the forces in favor of the Bear God. This will, for 5 turns, create a winter storm, which will cause attrition, same as it did before, but unlike in all of your territory, which was a bit broken for the AI, who just spammed Ursun on repeat, you can use it on individual provinces when needed. As for what your army has access to, the army invocations are as follows. For 50 devotion, we can use dodge, and for 5 turns, we'll gain more experience for all characters in this army. All of the characters will have the flammable effect, so they will reduce enemies' flaming resistance, and then enable flaming attacks for, looks like, the entire army. We can just test this in a moment. If it doesn't specify with parentheses, it tends to mean the entire army. For Salyak, 5 turns will allow us to replenish into foreign territory, have 100% more battle healing cap, and 10% more casualty replenishment rate. That healing cap is really, really good if you have a bunch of Patriarchs in an army. For Tor, for 5 turns, we'll have magical attacks, the Wrath of the Bear ability. This is where this one has gone. Gives you an army ability you can use 3 times to buff up weapon damage in a hurry for 17 seconds. And you'll get 8 more melee attack for the entire squad. Lastly, we have Ursun here, which will give us 20% more movement range, the Bitterness of Winter ability, so you'll have 3 uses of a leadership drop, speed drop, and a vigor drain. Then lastly, you'll gain 15% more weapon strength for all your war, bear riders, and elemental bears. All in all, a really good change to the devotion system, and like I said, I can't wait to see how they have more factions interact with control differently. This is fantastic. We'd love to see more of it. Every so often, you'll also have a church and state dilemma that'll pop up, and prompt you to choose between the Ice Court, the Orthodoxy, or staying diplomatic. This will give you some automatic boons, as well as grant you some buffs should you choose to support one or the other. You'll gain more boons if you select Ice Court or Kislev, at least for 1, but you're going to gain 2 either way. So you can choose to kind of even out what you already have if you are too far in one direction, or you can just take the diplomatic route and go straight down the middle. As for changes to Astankia and her ability to teleport on home, after your very first turn in her campaign, this event is going to pop on up. The Forest's Call in the long, cold months hexing your enemies far from the forest of Kislev. Your woodland home has ever whispered to you of matters concerning your own soil. A decision must be made to steer the fate of not just the Daughters of the Forest, but all of Kislev. Returning to Kislev would mean abandoning pursuits here in Nagaroth, but furthering your aims for the good of your ancestral homeland. Yet forging a new path in the land of Chill may prove as fruitful as it is risky. And you can choose to remain in Nagaroth, keep all of your settlements, keep 20 Spirit Essence, and then unlock the Witch's Hut with 2 random trinkets immediately, or you can leave Kislev, which will give you the Daughter's Return for 10 turns, giving you bonus relations with all Kislevite factions, immune to regionless attrition, 3 additional devotion, and then the immune to Chaos Corruption and Chaos Waste. You have to go ahead and claim yourself a new town. All Kislev building chains will be unlocked. I'll show you where you go ahead and teleport when you do. It says you will abandon Bleakhold Fortress and be granted a settlement in your homelands. This is likely to be a more challenging starting location. We leave for Kislev at once. And it teleports us into Plesk. With all of these starting settlements, but at tier 1, so we will be starting from scratch and having to cut our way through here. So yes, a much more difficult start, but one that allows Estancia to immediately teleport on home and start helping out defending the homeland, which I think is fantastic. And the last change is just a minor rework to all of the Lord and faction effects for the 4 Kislevite factions. There aren't as many for Estancia, but there are for Katerin, Gestalten, and a little bit to Boris. So we'll go ahead and read those off here. The faction effects now are allowed 1 greater tier difference in support for the Ice Court before penalties are applied, which just means the Ice Court can have 1 higher support before you'll start taking penalties to your diplomatic relations with Gestalten. You will also have the same old -20 diplomatic relations with the Orthodoxy, 15 more research rate, 3 recruit rank for Frost Maidens, Ice Court training cost -10%, extra winds of magic. I think these last were all similar to what they were last time. Lord effects for Katerin herself are 2 Ice Court support gain per turn, 6 less corruption, 25% less upkeep for Ice Guard units, and 50% less miscast chance. For Gestalten, we have 1 greater tier difference in support for the Orthodoxy before penalties are applied, so exactly the opposite. 40 less relations with the Ice Court because he is a hateful lad. 20% word save for Patriarchs. 5 more melee attack for Kislevite warriors, Kossars, dervishes, and horse archer units. 5 more leadership for all the same, and then for his Lord effects, we'll have the Orthodoxy support gain +2 per turn, less wound recovery, and then rage for his entire army, which I believe he has always had. For Boris, we have settlements in Chaos Wasteland climates gain additional devotion, which I believe has always been the case. 30 additional relations with the Ice Court, 5% more movement range for all armies, 30% less construction costs for garrison and religious buildings, -1 province and capital time construction for buildings, and then extra recruit rank for forebears. For Boris himself, 25% less upkeep for forebear riders, 7 more leadership when fighting against warriors of chaos, demons of chaos, chaos dwarfs, and Norska, 9 more melee attack when facing the same, and then immunity to chaos corruption. So all of his, I think these last ones are all really the same. It was mostly just Katerin and Gestalten that received the differences for the new Ice Court and Orthodoxy balance. That is it for the changes brought to Kislev with Update 6.1. Let me know what you all think about the changes in the comments below. Are these good, or are you not so impressed? I have been Space Wizard Total War, though. Thank you all so much for stopping on by today's video. If you enjoyed, please remember to leave a like for the Light God and a sub to the Subthrone, and I'll see you all in the next one.